€480,000. That's what I left on the table over 4 years, running a business that actually worked. Today I'm showing you exactly how I found that number and why your pricing might be hiding a blind spot just like this. €480,000. That's the amount that I left on the table over 4 years in a business that actually worked. How I got to that number and why your business might be hiding a similar blind spot. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Hi, I'm Maria and welcome back to Maria Unleashed. Today we talk about value-based pricing, what it is and why we actually do it. And before we start, I want to get one thing clear from the beginning. It's not a poor me story. No, it is a very successful story that included a very big mistake, a pricing mistake. And that's what we're going to look into now. So I started my business with €5,000, two hands, no investors, no safety nets. And I ran my business over several years, debt-free. I was ranked number 1 on Amazon in my category. And by all means, I was successful. I had long wait lists. I was sold out very, very often. And at some point, I wasn't even able to produce more because I was literally maxed out. And still, in the end, I knew something was off because, selling all these units was like, it was all fun and games and great, but it's like, where is my money at? Like, I know I made some. So recently, I developed my price calculator for my location independent blueprint. Because obviously, when I started my online business at almost 10 years ago, since then I learned a lot and I wanted to give my clients a price builder, a value-based price builder they can use for their business and show them exactly what's coming their way in a service-based business and in a product business. So I want to give my clients a real scenario and no fake one. I didn't want to come up with some imaginary stuff. I find it difficult to work with that. I really wanted to give them numbers that are real based on my product business back in the day, including all the mistakes I made, because most people are like, 500,000, are you crazy? That's not true. That can't be. Oh, trust me, it can. And yeah, waking up to this is obviously no joke. And yeah, it was a shock when I ran my numbers through my price builder for my finance chapter. I knew it's gonna be a large number. I knew it. And funny enough, I actually estimated, I said to myself, like, it's probably gonna be 500,000 or so. And yeah, it came very close to that. And that was a bit frustrating to see, and the realization was hard. It came as a shock, of course, even though I knew it deep down. But it was also liberating because I knew what I told you just now. I knew I made money. So where was it, right? Like the little leaks that are invisible in the beginning and that just accumulate over time and they really add up. So this podcast is really aimed to give you some insight and some clarity, and maybe you need to hear it from someone who actually, walked the path and went through it with it. And I also heard someone told me years ago, you have to charge according to your value. Like, what do people gain from your product, from your service? Like, what are you solving for them? Like, charge accordingly. And I always wanted to keep my prices affordable for normal people because I wanted them to have great products, right? Like the wealthy, they can just hire someone to tailor make them products. But I wanted to really reach normal people and I wanted to have an impact, and I can only have a good impact and a big one if I reach a lot of people and if many people are able to use these products. So together we actually create the change. It's not just me. It's not one person. It's not 10 person. It's actually thousands and thousands of people who need to participate to create this change that I wanted to help create. But different story there. That was my philosophy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there was a huge thing wrong with the pricing. So now I know. And back in the day, I didn't want to hear it. I could not believe it. And I was like, no, I can do it. Well, it turns out I can't. Not how things are at the moment, not at what clients want from you and expect from you, and if you want to compete with all the other brands out there, and it's just very, very difficult. So you can have fair prices, but then you also need fair clients and fair competition as well. And until we are there, I would say go with value-based pricing. So here's why. Um, First of all, the problem I encounter very often is like there are two, in my opinion, there are two main traps people fall into, and almost every business owner at least falls into one at some point. Number one is comparison. And that goes for both for the product-based business and the service business. So let's say you see someone charging a price, and that price is maybe lower than yours, and you start panicking. And suddenly you drop your price. Why? Because you want to compete. Of course, there's this fear of, oh no, they're not going to buy from me, they're going to buy from them. And this triggers a little domino effect that runs through the entire, let's say, category on Amazon, or through the, I don't know, whatever, even your service business. It doesn't matter. But suddenly everybody drops the price. And it's like, oh no, I have to compete with them, so I have to drop the price. Or, hey, I'm going to offer more. And that's another one that's a bit dangerous, like undervaluing and over delivering. So it's a very common trap. I've seen it happening in so many places. And the very first one I actually lived through was London. In London, I saw what was happening, and it was very, very difficult to keep up with them because everybody was just going lower, lower, and lower until people said, oh, I work for free. And where I get it when you want to start, like if it's your first ever job and you say, hey, I want to find out what's going on. And, obviously I'm a huge liability. So yeah, I'm going to work for free. I don't know, for a month or whatever. And yeah, if I like it, if you like me, the next one is paid. That's a different story. But if suddenly no one gets paid, that's a huge problem. And then obviously the clients or whoever books you is not going to suddenly pay you more once they paid very little or nothing. They know you're going to work for less. So why should they ever offer you more money again? So that's trap number one. And this one can destroy entire industries. Trap number two is the comparison. Very, very difficult. I also fell into the trap, and it goes like that. You compare yourself with huge brands that have millions and millions, that have teams, infrastructure built over decades, and it's ridiculous. You cannot compare yourself, or let's start with me. I can't compare myself with 5,000 euro and two hands, no investors, and compare myself with a large online shop. It's just not possible. I cannot match their pricing. I cannot match their customer service, right? And there it goes from there. It's just literally like, oh, okay. You are one person who probably has to do it all, right? That's what we do. Like if you're a sole trader, if it's just you, if you don't have a team, you are going to take care of everything. And these big brands, they don't have that issue. They can just throw money at the problem and that's it. And you can't. And if you try to compete with them, that's a huge problem because you can't match them. And how could you? It's just not possible. But because we all try, of course, we want to be in there somewhere and we want to offer free shipping. And by the way, there is no such thing as free shipping, right? It needs to be calculated for. But then that's what people do. Oh, they have 50% sales. Then I have to do 55% sales. So people come to me and this kind of stuff. And it really creates a huge issue and it's going to burn you out. That's just what it is. And I know it's hard. And again, I did it as well. I also wanted to kind of match somebody's, else's pricing strategy, but it's not good. It's not getting you anywhere, and it will leave you completely exhausted and probably also very frustrated. So comparison and the competition, those are very huge traps people usually fall into at some point, and from there it starts. I also did one huge mistake in my product business because I started out in service, and obviously the pricing for a service is different than the one for an online shop, for a product, for a physical product business. And I used service logic and applied it to physical products. Huge mistake. I mean, if you've been here and if you've listened to some of the other episodes and to the early ones, then you know how I started and that I didn't have any clue of what I was doing. I was leaving the service industry and I decided to start an online shop. It was basically out of the blue. Back in the day, it was like, okay, I have to find a way to be able to work remotely. Yeah, let's do an online shop. Okay, so I did everything learning by doing. That was my strategy because I had no mentor. I had no, again, 5,000 euros. So it's not that I could have bought a lot of expertise. And I just figured it out. I was totally winging it all the way, and I learned a lot. Like, it was really the best school or the best test I could have asked for. Would I do it again? No. But I did it. I learned from it, like a big time. And now I really hope that I can help you with my experience, with my stories, to maybe help you not fall into every trap, to not make every mistake in the book. Because really, you don't have to. If you want to teach people later, that's a different story. Then, the scars from the battlefield, they are your curriculum. And people just know when people feel if you know what you're talking about or if you're just, I don't know, copying something you have read somewhere. And if that's your goal, if you want to actually teach people, then yes, you have to go through it yourself. I mean, that makes you a better teacher. It really does. If you don't aim for that, then honestly, guys, don't go. Just don't do it to yourself. You don't have to make every mistake to earn your success. At least in my opinion, you don't. And yes, that's why I want to cover a little bit of what's going on in a product-based business and what you should definitely calculate for. So I hope it gives you an idea what a calculator, a price calculator, should definitely contain. And sometimes that the calculator can be as good as it gets, but life happens and governments decide to waive new rules and come up with new taxes and this kind of stuff, and you cannot foresee it. But there are a lot of things you actually can budget for and calculate in, but you need to know it. You cannot calculate a price properly if you don't know what your costs are and what all the different positions are. So let's look into it a little bit so you understand what to really look out for, what to calculate in, and to then also later add this layer of value based pricing, right? Because just the margin and your time is not a price strategy. That's not gonna cut it. It's a good starting point, and you will see why, but you should not stop there. But let's dive into it. So I have my German list here, and I don't want to confuse any rules for Germany with the European rules. So I'm going to switch to my English list instead. Okay, the costs that are definitely coming your way. And those costs are pretty standard. So, yes, some businesses have different positions than others. Absolutely. Yes. But there are some costs that are just omnipresent. Okay. And that's what we are going to look into now. So, number one is production and the variable costs. So you have to definitely calculate for every unit, the material, the packaging. And here is the critical part. These costs are changing depending on the volume that you produce, right? So you must really make sure to calculate both. Calculate the lower end. Let's say you sell only 100 units a day, and then calculate for the really, really busy, great days or weeks or months where you sell, I don't know, 1,000 a month. And obviously you are going to use your numbers, and don't make them up. Don't say, oh, but I like this one and I'm positive and now I'm manifesting X amount. No, really start from the numbers that are real, the numbers you are actually selling. Otherwise, all of this makes no sense. Okay? Let's keep it real. Because in that sense, you can actually do something. Like when you do see mistakes, you can adjust and you can actually convert it into reality and into your real business. But if you take fake numbers and just make believe stuff, yeah, I don't know, it's not going to help you. It's going to make everything worse. So take your numbers, and it doesn't matter. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be whatever. Don't, just take your numbers, run them for the minimum and for the maximum that you can produce. So you get an idea of what you must definitely take in each month, what you have to calculate, like for the minimum, and then obviously what do you need for the maximum capacity. And another one people forget often are platform fees and distribution costs. And I have to say, I knew they existed and I calculated some of them. I did not calculate for all of them because I just didn't know they existed. So, as I said, you cannot calculate for what you don't know. Platform fees. What do I mean by that? In this example, it's selling on like platforms like Amazon, Etsy, eBay, all of those, any other platform really. And it's the fees, the payment processing, the shipping per unit, the return rate, right? Because you have to calculate that in two. So, and we are going to look into that in a little bit again. But the return rate is something you cannot know from the beginning. You have to just just a rough run, like, okay, what in what ballpark are we in, and maybe even calculate for a few more, because then you have a buffer. Don't calculate for zero returns. You are going to have some, unless your shop quotes no returns, and obviously not. But for platforms like Amazon, they don't care what your shop rules are. Amazon says every client here is entitled to a return, so calculate that in. The next one are fixed costs. They are the easiest to calculate because, well, they are fixed and they appear every month and every year, and you know what's coming your way. Okay, those can be software, storage, insurance, um, legal, accounting, branding, website, marketing in general. So, and these exist whether you are selling anything or not. So the good thing about the fixed cost is that you know what's coming your way every month, and it doesn't change. The prices are what they are. But the problem is you pay for them even if you don't sell anything. So that's why I like to keep my fixed cost as low as possible. And the most expensive fixed costs are usually teams, like employing other people, paying a salary, right? And the rent, like your shop rent, your office rent, this kind of stuff. So your lease. And I would definitely say, if you can, try to avoid it as long as possible. Unless you have an investor, if you do have the money, then no, go for a team, go all the way. But if you don't have the money yet, try to keep your fixed costs as low as possible. Next position is tax. I know most people, they like to ignore that one, but it will come your way. So please calculate it in. And this one really depends on your country. So again, the details differ, but the structure is always the same. If you've been following me, from my location independence, that is a system, right? It doesn't matter whether you are in the US, in Portugal, or in Germany, you are paying tax. But the amount and for what you pay tax, they differ, the details. So please make sure, depending on where you are, read into it in your country or in the country your business is actually registered, and take it from there. Okay, but some of them can be, or probably will be, a VAT, corporation tax, import duties, customs. And there are hundreds more. And these, unfortunately, they differ by the country and by the product category. So, and that obviously then also changes the prices. So you have to really make sure. But that is something that I learned a bit on the fly, because again, it changes. Like, you can look it all up, all these positions, like let's say the customs, you can look it up online. They usually say exactly for what category, how much tax you need to pay, and the income duties, the import duties as well. But sometimes that changes, and sometimes well, I had the funniest stories with the customs where I'm like, what is happening? Like, I don't know, they didn't speak English or what in Hamburg, in Germany, I don't know. But I ordered my bottles and the bottle caps, and they are in different boxes. So one contains the bottles, one contains the caps, and it said clearly caps, and it even had a picture of it, what the final product looked like. And I believe I had to pay 5% on this category, but they thought I meant caps, like a baseball cap, and that is a different tax category. And then, to it took, I don't know, 10 days or so to figure that one out. And obviously then you pay for the storage, because the people there, they're going to say, well, it's not my problem. Well, I'm saying, well, if you don't speak English, I guess it is your problem. But no, in the end, it's my problem, or they make it my problem, because they are going to charge, or they charged me X amount for the extra storage per day. Well, I'm like, well, great. So yeah, you are learning with all these experiences. And in the end, we came up with a system where I said to my supplier, okay, we really have to make it dummy proof. Okay, so let's really go out all the way and make it extra super duper special and like safe for the German customs. Okay, so but that's something you don't know. You don't know that upfront. That's just something you learn with experience. But then it's very important that you take that knowledge and convert it into your, let's say, spreadsheet. So if you know it's gonna, sometimes add a little bit more money, or where it's possible, like, sometimes you have these positions where you just know, okay, at some point it's very likely that it adds up, it just gets more than expected. So I always create little buffers where in positions where I know, okay, this one usually creates a little bit of friction, put aside a little bit of a safety net. So again, I put that into my calculator, and then I know for the next batch how much the price needs to change. But this is just an example. Again, it really depends what you do. But in general, my experience is just be a little bit more generous on the price calculating side. So now if you calculate a little bit more, but then pay less, that's not a problem. But if you calculate less money and then you spend more, it's a huge problem. So keep that in mind. And then you have the personal positions you need to account for. And that's what most people don't really talk about, or they push away, and they try to save, they try to cut corners there. I do see why, but please don't do it, because it's you, and if you don't exist, your business doesn't exist. So it's important that you take care of you and of your personal price positions as well. So one is health insurance. So nobody covers you when you are sick or ill or recovering, and you want to make sure that you have the opportunity to do so, to see a good doctor, to get treated, and then also have recovery time. That's important. So please make sure to look into it. If you do it or not is up to you, but please at least look into it. There are many options available, especially for people who are location independent like me, because we get to choose from a variety of services and service providers, which I don't get to choose from in Germany. In Germany, I'm forced to take this very special one. You have different options, but they're all the same, and they're all pretty shitty in my opinion. So I like the fact that I can choose from a private service provider. And again, you don't have to, just that it exists and there's a reason for it. So maybe look into it and find the one that suits your needs. Another one is retirement. Okay, so now is the time to actually take care of the future you. So, and I know not every month, and especially if scenarios like COVID happen, I know it's difficult, and I know in those months there is pretty much no room for error, and then those usually suffer first. So where say, okay, maybe then I just quit my health insurance. Okay, maybe I just don't put money aside for the next few months. But then at some point, it just kind of adds up and it's missing later. So definitely make sure to also look into it and calculate how much money you would like to make when you retire or when you are older. And let's say you don't want to work anymore, right? Or you maybe you can't. So just make sure to look into it, to understand how much life costs, what you will need in your future, and then calculate that down to a month rate, so monthly rate where you know, okay, when I'm 60, I need, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000, wherever you live, it's more or less. So how long do I have to save to reach this point where I can comfortably live another 20 years of my savings? I know it's a huge number, isn't it? So the earlier you start, the better. But then again, today you have so many different options, what you can do, different investment options as well. So important is that you look into it. What you do is totally up to you. Then you should also look into slow months. And that is something you again cannot know from the beginning. It's just an experience. I know now, like, again, I can really pinpoint it because I have 16 years of experience now. When I started, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know, am I going to work 30 days a month or am I going to work 6 days a month? And now you kind of get a feeling for it because you've been around the block. But make sure that you can live comfortably during the busy months, but especially during the slow months. Then another position you should definitely calculate for is time off. That is something I completely ignored, and I paid a very high price for it. And I'm not going to go into this right now, but I'm just saying, really take it to heart, take time off, recover. Because again, you are your business, and if you are not running properly, there is no business, and there's probably also no family, right? So there is this again domino effect happening where when you are ill and you cannot work, then everything goes downhill. So make sure that your batteries are full, that you are healthy, that you are happy, that you are full of energy, so you can give to your company, to your clients, and all of that. Another one I really like, and I did from the beginning, is reinvesting your money. So you should definitely calculate that in. I did not calculate enough for it. So I took it from other parts of my business, and usually I took it from my salary, where I said, okay, I won't pay myself, that much. I would just go with the minimum and then I reinvest the other. But that's not great. It's okay for a few months or so, but I would not make that a price strategy because again, if you are not well and if you can't afford your housing, your food, like the basics at least, it is difficult. And then you cannot show up 100% if you are not 100%. So make sure that you calculate money for reinvesting for new software, great equipment, all of that, like marketing, like makeovers, yes, for your website. So just to make sure everything is up to date and looks as good as it can look. And if you are wondering, okay, how do I know that I have calculated enough? Fair question. And you should come back to that question on a regular basis. So what you should definitely do is you calculate every single cost you know. If there are coming more costs your way, don't just ignore them, write them down and add them to your price calculator. Okay, so there's no harm that you didn't know a certain price position. That's okay, because no one teaches us at school or at university. Or maybe some fancy schools do, I don't know. But my experience, we are not prepared for the real world scenario at all. So when it comes your way, you notice it, write it down, again, add it. If you in the end up not having to pay it, great. Then you have a little bit of extra buffer for you, but you don't want to be short of money. And so that's why I'm saying come back on a regular basis. So what you do is you calculate your entire cost, everything you know of, and then you divide it by the hours you can realistically work. And I mean realistically. Don't expect to work 30 days a month, every month. That's not realistic, not in the long run. So make sure that you have, if you have experience, go based on your experience of what's really going on, not the future make believe, not the, oh, but I manifested it and now I'm gonna, no. Take the numbers you actually have that are actually happening right now and then optimize from that point. Really, like, important. Okay. And there you get an idea. And that is still not the price, the whole price. This is just an idea of how much money you will have to make per hour to actually cover everything and to also cover the work that is happening in the background. If you know, like, what do you mean? I give you an example. Everybody knows, and no experience needed. Take a cafe or a restaurant. And you probably have noticed how they have some days off where it's like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 days off per week. Some special restaurants even take 4 days off. And people are like, oh, wow, I would like to have your work week. And I'm like, huh? What do you mean? The guys are working their asses off. Like, yeah, but they're only open 3 days a week. Yes. And do you know why? That's like, of course, because they have to prep everything. They have to buy their product. They have to prepare it. Like, that's what I'm saying. If you have special meats, for instance, and they're slow cooked for over a day, it takes time. You can't just do that on a daily basis and do the marketing and do the shopping and do the accounting and do this and do that. No. So make sure you really understand what's happening behind the scenes. Even if you have a service business and a client, how much time does it take to onboard the clients? How much time do you need in between calls? Because there's always something coming up. How much time do you need for your accounting, just the basics, just to prep for your accountant? Or do you have clients that take a lot of your attention? Like, you really have to make sure to calculate that in. If you just charge them for the 1 hour you spend with them, but then you end up doing 3 hours in the background for them, that's obviously, that's mismatched. So you have to match the prices for that. Or you have clear boundaries that say, listen, we have 1 hour, and whatever happens after, I don't care anymore. Like, then make sure to book a new session with me. That's also possible. But you have to take one way or the other. But don't just charge for 1 hour, but then end up working 4 hours for one client. That's what I mean. So make sure you take real numbers, real events, hopefully based on your experience, that actually helps. Yes, and then divide it by how often or how long you want to work, and then you take it from there. So, oh yes, client quality. Oh dear God. Yes. So why would I say that? Why would I say client quality? And how is that important for value-based pricing? Good question. So in my experience, I used to take on everybody. I was so happy that I could help people. And I was like, yes, I'm going to give you all my knowledge. All my products, depends, right, for which business. But I was all in. I was so happy. And I didn't want to say no to a client because I wanted to help. I genuinely wanted to help them. And I realized at some point, okay, yeah, that's not going to happen. Why? Because not every client is a high quality client. There are many low quality clients that come and that, I mean, really waste your time. And those are usually the clients that I just actually mentioned in the example before, where they pay for an hour, but end up taking 4 hours of your time without, you know, uh, paying extra or coming back and saying, oh, you know what, hey, thank you so much for taking so much extra time. Here is a special tip for you, for instance, right? That would actually help. Or if they come and bringing 10 new clients, that would actually help, right? So that is where it gets like outbalanced. But if one client only buys for discounts or only buys discounted products and then returns them, or has questions and ask you like, where's my product, but I ordered it yesterday, and then they literally every few hours come and it's still not here, where's my product, this kind of stuff. And it adds to your time because you have to actually be the customer service agent here and answer these questions, or you don't, then they give you bad reviews, right? So yeah, ask every shop owner and then we'll come back with the same experience. It's just not worth it. Instead, focus on high quality clients because they actually come in and respect and value your work, whether it's a product or a service or your expertise. They come and they expect you to take your time because they know that good quality takes time, right? There's a connection there and they understand it. And they are very likely to recommend you to their friends who are most likely also like them, high quality clients. And that's what I really had to learn the hard way. And it took me longer than I want to admit, right? I was always like, okay, no, but maybe the next one, maybe here, maybe there. So it took me like 3 years or so to understand no. Oh my God, boundaries and a clear price, because a price also signals, hey, it's a certain type of product, because I also expect my clients to show up fully committed. And when they pay a certain price that's high enough for them to also say, yes, I am committed. I'm not going to just throw out my money. And then there are people who are just buying randomly stuff for a few euros and they don't value it. They're going to throw it away. They're going to return it. They're going to leave bad reviews. Why? So, and if you say, yes, Maria, but I need clients and I'd rather have them, no, trust me, don't give me that. I've been there, done that many times, as I said, way too many years. And I can tell you, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. You owe yourself great clients. If you have a great service and a great product, yeah, you should definitely aim for them and you should spend your time catering to them, finding them, attracting them. And funny enough, I would say now, after so many years, it takes time to find high quality clients and it takes time to find low quality clients. It takes the same amount of time. Like the high quality clients, it's not more time, it's just a different approach. The time, the outcome is the same in the end. So you might as well take your time, the little time you have in your day, right? Because I know you're doing it all. Take your time and use it wisely. Go out there and target high quality clients for your business. And trust me, you are not going to regret it. Okay, let me quickly double check. Yes, I did. Oh, yeah, by the way, I did the same episode in German. So if German is your mother language and you want to hear me talk the same talk in my mother language in German, then hop over to Maria Unleashed Deutsch. The link is in the description. And I just did a very, very detailed report on it on value-based pricing. So if you want, head over there and check it out. Otherwise, I would just like to say charging for your service or your product that's actually worth something for your clients is not being greedy. You are not being mean, you are not being whatever. I've heard all sorts of, what you are when you overcharge. I mean, yeah, overcharging is shitty. But charging what it's worth, it's that is fair. That means fair pricing. And I was actually listening to that too much in the beginning, and I did, some people did make me feel bad when I actually asked for what it's worth. And now I'm glad. That's the one thing that the one good thing that I know now is I have been there and I've done it the other way. And I know it's not working out for nobody. And now I can really say I stand behind my decisions, behind my pricing, and I know why I'm doing it. And I'm not backing away. And that's great, because if I had just listened to the woman who told me so many years ago, I wouldn't really know. I would say it, I would repeat her, but I would not be sitting here right now and telling you basically the same story. It is really true. And so yeah, that's actually yeah, that is something I am very proud of actually and grateful for, because now that's the one thing I don't have to argue about or mm, like doubt myself, right? And it feels good to just know what's going on. It's a good one. So let me tell you this. If you undercharge for your service or product, no one is gonna pay you respect or gratitude for it. No one is gonna come and say, "Oh, Maria, wow, thank you for undercharging your products. Thank you that I can now afford to have beautiful products that actually keep me healthy and my entire family. And you know what? For undercharging, because I see now that you have issues buying a house, you know what? We're gonna let you live for 200 euro, like an old Berlin flat price. We're gonna let you live there for the next 10 years, no questions asked. You know what? And that in this situation, I would probably say, cool. In that case, I'm actually willing to go down with my prices because someone else is also willing to do it. So I don't need to charge more money so I can pay for the higher living costs. Does that make sense? So in that case, and that's why I'm saying what I said in the very beginning, when we live in that world, we can all charge less because we take care of each other. But we don't live in that world yet. And as of now, we have to take care of ourselves. So no one came to me and said, hey, wow, Maria, thank you. Can I help you? Do you need help with anything? Can I return the favor? Did not happen. So the issue is here that people, and myself included, I ended up um, bitter and frustrated and angry at the people. And that's not good. I don't want to be angry at my clients. I should be angry at myself because I was the one pricing my products, not the clients. I did. And I did it wrong. I now know that. So please be kind to yourself and don't overcharge. Don't charge the maximum the market bears. No, that's also not value-based pricing. Take your numbers, run your numbers, and then also add the layer of what is it worth to the client? How, what issues or problems are you solving for them? And what is that worth to the client? And there it is. And it doesn't have to be for everybody. That's another one. People believe, oh, but I have to serve everyone. No, you're just going to end up serving no one. Another one I've learned the hard way. So make sure that you are set well, that you can pay your salary, that you can pay your company every single cost, the tax for your company. Please don't save that, don't cut any corners. And you want to make sure that you can take care of your health, of your well-being, because you deserve it. If you are putting yourself out there and you are delivering excellent quality, oh dear God, treat yourself, please do that. And you don't have to justify anything, right? And the clients actually, they want you to be at your best self, like at 100%. I want my, let's say, my marketing team that I hire, I want them to charge good money because then I know they are not taking on too many clients. That's the other issue. And they can actually focus on me. So I'm happy to pay for that one-on-one quality. And I'm happy to pay for someone who puts their heart into it and makes it as good as possible. If they have to take on side jobs because they can't pay their bills, how do you think they're going to focus on your problem and solve your problem for you? They can't because they're so preoccupied with other stuff, right? So, and that's just, sometimes it's hard to admit that for yourself, but if you look at someone that you admire and that you want to work with, and I'm pretty sure you're happy to pay for their service. Why? Well, probably some of the reasons I just mentioned. And the same goes for you. So don't cut corners there. Treat yourself well, treat your business well. Your health and your time are your most valuable business assets. It's just what it is. It's, yeah, guys, that is a pinnacle. And from there it goes down. If you have no time, if you have no good health, how are you supposed to help anybody? Okay, so I really hope it sparks a little idea, or maybe it triggers you to look into your pricing again. I really hope so. And obviously, there are many more positions. Maternity leave, I forgot, sorry. That is one actually every woman must contemplate before if you want to want to have a family or not. Sorry, that was just like thrown in now at the very end. But again, there are many more positions and costs to consider depending on your lifestyle and your life. But it is possible. The more you know, the realer you are and the more detailed you are, the better. And if you get your idea, if you actually look at the numbers, even though it hurts, guys, I'm telling you, it's good because you can now solve it, right? That's literally just a spreadsheet to solve. So, with this in mind, if you are interested in learning more, head over to my website, ethosanconsulting.com. Sign up to my blueprint letter. I prepared a little 5-week series of just important stuff to cover, and it concerns the systems, the structure, the lifestyle, and just some personal insight as well if you are running your own company. And of course, if you want to run it location independent, you can cancel at any time, no questions asked. If you want to work with me directly, please contact me. Check out my cross-border sessions and my blueprint program. It's launching soon and it's now open for your application. And if you have a question, just reach out to me. If you want to know more about a specific topic, let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you want, head over to my Instagram channel, Ethosan Consulting, for just weekly updates on what's going on. And you can also reach out via DM there. Thank you guys for being here, for staying until the end. I will see you in the next one. Bye.